Little ditty about Jack and Diane, two kids from the Midwest who listen to Stick to Wrestling every chance they can. My name is John McAdam. Welcome to Stick to Wrestling, where if you give us 60 minutes, we will give you a wicked good podcast. Before we get rolling, the email address for PayPal to contribute to this fine show is prowrestlingarchives@gmail.com. Any amount is appreciated. We do our best every week. We work hard to serve up a tasty podcast. And if you'd like to tip your servers, please go to that email address via PayPal, prowrestlingarchives@gmail.com. Also wanted to point out, if you're part of the Arcadian Vanguard, you probably know this, but the 605 Super Podcast put out a special holiday Star Wars episode that I was on for the first hour, and I'm going to listen to that tonight. And apparently, we were recording this on July 5th, and one of the guests lives in Southern California. And I guess when they were recording, the guy's house started shaking like crazy because of the earthquakes on that day. So I'm going to have fun listening to that tonight. But yeah, I am on the first hour. And with that, I would like to bring in my convivial co-host, Sean Goodwin. Sean, how are you? And tell us about the Facebook group.
We have the cool. If you like arguments and fighting and disagreements in your Facebook group, then we're not the place to go.
Yeah.
If you want tranquility, zen, and quality old school wrestling, we are the place to go. So it's Stick to Wrestling. That's the name, obviously, of the Facebook, because anything else would be confusing. And we are approaching 600 people now.
Yeah, it's cooler than a room full of Fonzies. So yeah, definitely, if you listen to the show, you want to make that your companion piece, if you will. Also, if you would like to follow me on Twitter, it's just put in John McAdam, and there's a couple of guys fighting with a chair. I'm not the greatest Twitter follower out there. I probably tweet like 10 times a week. But if you want to get in on that nonsense, there you go. Before we get into the wrestling content, I have something weird happened to me yesterday. Please, this is like 90 seconds, has nothing to do with wrestling. I used to listen to this band, local band in Boston called La Peste, and it's hard to find their music. They were wicked cool in the late 70s, early 80s. So I'm music shopping, and I see a CD from La Peste. I'm like, wow, I'm going to grab this. It arrived yesterday, and La Peste was the name of the album itself, not the band. Nothing interesting is going on with this story yet, folks, but the band was Alabama 3, and the name of the album was La Peste. Alabama 3 is the band that put out the Sopranos theme. So instead of getting my old school Boston band, I got the Sopranos theme guy. So I thought that was crazy. But anyway, Sean, you and I, not together, but we both watched the matches that the WWE Network just released from the 1986 Great American Bashes. I want to say this. If you subscribe to WWE Network, you want to see this stuff as soon as possible. It's awesome. If you do not, I strongly recommend either getting your free trial month or just subscribing for a month just to see this footage. It's about 7 hours worth. It is well worth the $10. Sean, I mean, your thoughts on this?
Well, I would agree that the WWE Network, despite the fact I don't like the modern product, that's a good deal because not only do you get the pay-per-view every month, but it's worth the price of admission just for the vault. And a lot of the stuff in there is going to be crap, but every once in a while, the last couple weeks, now I have to look all the time because what they seem to be doing is slipping stuff in there just to kind of broaden up the viewer to make you pay attention, because before the show I have to look all the time just in case. But a couple of weeks ago we had all that great footage from the Crockett Cup, which was unknown, and now we have 2 shows from the Great American Bash Tour with no announcers.
Yeah, 2 complete shows from the 1986 Great American Bash. I have, Sean, in the past thought that in some ways you overrated a little bit Tully Blanchard on the show. Overrated doesn't mean bad. It just means that he's a little bit overpraised. Let me tell you something. Tully Blanchard was the Michael Jordan of professional wrestling in his 2 matches that they had against Ronnie Garvin. The guy was perfect. He made the matches special. I mean, Garvin held up his end, but Tully was amazing. And so was JJ Dillon.
First of all, what were the 2 shows?
One was the Charlotte show where Dusty won the NWA title, and the other one, I think, was the outdoor show in Greensboro where Ric Flair fought Ricky Morton in the cage.
I'm pulling it up right now. The one that Dusty won the title, that was July 26th. It was in the Greensboro Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one was, you're right, that was a tremendous match between Ricky and Flair. And July 11th, and it looks like Roanoke. Let me see the rest of the card.
I'm pretty sure they were both from North Carolina. The first one was the outdoor show from, I think, Greensboro. I don't know, one of those like big cities that they ran the baseball stadium at.
Okay, well, either way. So let me get to that, to Tully Blanchard. That's one of those things where those were great matches, and stylistically it just fits because Tully has that great selling, that great kind of weaselly, cowardly heel thing, and then you just have Ronnie, who's just the old one-man gang. You know, the great offense, heavy hitting. And we were talking, and I during watching one of the shows, and I had joked that, the cameramen must love it when Ronnie's in there, because you could get really in close. It doesn't matter because Ronnie's actually hitting the guy.
Yeah, or Ronnie popped Tully once good. You could tell, you were like, oh, that's going to be swollen tomorrow.
I asked, so the 2 matches between them, they weren't even wrestling. They were like tape disc matches.
Right.
So, and these matches are almost universally bad, with 2 exceptions, and I just saw them.
Yeah, I mean, Blanchard was just unbelievable selling to Garvin in that environment. I mean, of all like the somewhat little negative things I can say about Tully, which are kind of nitpicky, like you can't use him as a heel. He's a little bit small, and there was a time where he was just very stale in JCP. We hadn't gotten to this point yet, and he was just amazing. So kudos to Mr. Blanchard. You mentioned the '86 Crockett Cup that was also recently released.
Before we leave that, I just want to go back to one guy who does not get enough credit, and you brought him up, and he really kind of was the glue to this whole thing, and this was JJ Dillon. He was fantastic. And I think I found the other show. It was Charlotte on the 5th.
Okay.
And that was the show on the 5th, 23,000 in Memorial Stadium, where the match was basically both guys got knocked out. Wahoo was in the corner for I don't mean to give away the ending, but it was 30 years ago, plus years ago. Ronnie, they were both out, so there has to be a winner, so they were counting. First guy up wins, and while JJ was hysterically waving a towel, you could not have been more dramatic doing it, trying to wake up Tully. The ref takes him off to the side. Wahoo dumps a bucket of water. Now, so
on Garvin.
Ronnie on Garvin wakes up, and that's how the match ends. So finally, JJ looks over and he sees the water, and he's looking at Tommy. What's his name? The ref. Tommy Young, and he's like, "Are you kidding me?" And Tommy's like, "Well, you never know. I didn't see it." And he's like, "Where do you think it came from?" So then JJ goes outside, and he finds the stupid bucket. And he just takes it and chucks it at Tommy. He was fantastic. I mean, that was like Captain Lou quality from the 70s work.
JJ frantically waving that towel at Tully Blanchard, trying to fan him into consciousness, was just too much. But
just saying fanning doesn't describe it. Every limb was moving. It was like this dance as he was trying to wake him up. It was like a rain dance or something. It was great.
My ribs hurt. And one thing I'm going to be a little bit critical of JCP, the promotion itself that no longer exists. They could and should have released this stuff. And some of you are saying, wait a minute, they kind of did. And I'm talking about the '86 Crockett Cup too. JCP would overproduce these shows. I mean, you'd have like 4.5 hours of Crockett Cup footage, And instead, they would whittle it down to this 2-hour highlight tape. I just think the average wrestling fan would have been happier with the 4.5 hours, whatever it is, of raw footage on 2 or 3 different tapes. You don't need the fancy clamshell box. You don't need the stupid artwork. All this stuff that increases your cost. What they should have done, they should have gone with the more ECW model that became popular in like 94, 95, where they're just putting out 1 million tapes. And you don't get anything special when it arrives. It's just the tape of the wrestling you want to see. Like, they should have had a new tape out every month. Just record a house show and, hey, this is available 1995.
Well, two things about that is because, one, I have a question for you, Mr. Tape Trader.
Huh?
But if you're looking at 1986, and and I've joked with you about this, I said it for 1 second, you stopped me immediately, go, I never did that. It was like a point of pride. And it was because you're talking the old VHS tapes now.
Mm-hmm.
So, or God forbid, beta. And so with these tapes, you have 3 notches on it. You can do the 2-hour, the 4-hour, or the 6-hour. And as you know, anything over the 2-hour is garbage. And as you also know, it was basically never done that people would order, that people would get the multiple tapes. It just was not done. People did not do it.
No, if you're going to put out a commercial product, you absolutely had to use SP speed. I generally, for the tapes I made for myself, and I guess for everyone, I used 4-hour speed because just the cost of blank tapes was so expensive. Yet there was a big difference between 4-hour speed and 6-hour speed. I never used 6-hour speed for my own stuff, but sometimes I used it. Like if I got a 6-hour tape, okay, I'm not
right,
overdubbing it. But anyway. This is
I was joking. I was joking because on an earlier show I claimed I was just kidding with you, but I claimed that there was a 6-hour tape in one of the ones I bought, and you got all upset about it. So, but that tells you that, yeah, there was like a point of pride. Like, I don't do that. Okay. So, which I appreciated. That you had a professional product, but that's what I'm saying though, is that it just wasn't done back then. I mean, WWF did it all the time too. They could have been releasing these MSG shows all over the place, but they would give you these world's strangest matches, world's most bizarre matches, world's most purple matches. I mean, you had all these million tapes for everybody.
Well, that's the thing, though. At least they were putting out tapes. Like, in 85, JCP could not put out pay-per-views, or did not. So put out some tapes. I think it would have worked. I think it would have brought in more revenue for JCP. But anyway.
But I will say this: if you want to do that, as opposed to cutting them up, how about you do this? You can lose Denny Brown against Steve Regal to start off, and we can lose the concert by Wailing Jennings. Thank you very much. Just start like 3 matches, 4 matches in, like we did when we watched it.
I mean, yeah, and that's another thing. You can do that. I mean, they could have made a Best of the Rock and Roll Express, Best of Magnum TA, etc., and it just wasn't a priority to them, and I think it should have been. But here we are, a special edition of Stick to Wrestling, and this is one I've been looking forward to. Ladies and gentlemen, drum roll, please. We have a sponsor, and I want to take a moment to thank Hotbox Cards for sponsoring this show. The website that they use, www.hotboxcards.net. Now, you guys have listened to the show before. You know how the show goes. Put something in front of Sean and I, a list, a bunch of results, a picture of a wrestler, whatever you got, and we can talk about it, and we can, share our thoughts about it. The guys at Hotbox Cards were kind enough to send each of us a sample box of their product, and we're not going to spend an entire hour talking about Hotbox Cards, but we're going to talk about the stuff that they laid out in front of us. For example, I see a package of cards with Randy Orton on the cover. So I could sit here and talk about Randy Orton for 10 minutes. You guys know how that works. But let me tell you a little bit about this. It is a monthly sports card subscription service. They do baseball and football cards. All boxes contain at least 3 unopened packs, 50 bonus cards with only stars, semi-stars, rookies, inserts, parallels, and vintage pre-1980 cards. 3 hits, which is memorabilia and or autograph cards. If you pull out an expired redemption card out of one of their packs, they will honor it with a comparable item. Now, they are offering on our behalf a one-time product called the Hot Tag Wrestling Box, which is what Sean and I have received from them. It contains everything that a regular box has, plus chances at autographed 8x10 photos, 1950s exhibit cards, and 1982 Wrestling All-Star cards. Check this out. If you use the code Wicked Good, all one word and all caps, you will receive an extra unopened pack in their Hot Tag Wrestling Box. The wrestling boxes are not shipping until August the 12th, but that is right around the corner. Once again, it's hotboxcards.net, and you can find them on Facebook. Just put in the words Hot Box Cards, and it'll pop right up. Sean, I got to tell you, I got this box about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, and it's been sitting there and I have not worried about it. And then I started like prepping for this show and I couldn't wait to see what was in there. And yeah, we finally opened ours right before the show. Tell me a little bit about something interesting that's in front of you.
The first guy staring in my face when I open my box is one Mr. Ray Stevens. Bleach blonde. It looks like it is and we can put pictures of these on the site for the show, so you can see what we're talking about. But it's a Wrestling All-Star card. It looks like it is from the early '80s. It's in one of those cool card holders. When I used to collect cards, you remember we had the fancy ones. You'd have the plastic card holder for it. It's encased in one of those. It's in nice condition. On the back, it tells about this is where I finally learned where Ray got his Crippler nickname.
How was that?
That is our interesting fact in the back. He got it in the early 70s when he did the Bombs Away to I think it was Dr. X.
Okay.
So
Dr.
that's pretty cool.
Dr. X was Dick Beyer back then, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, he was the AWA version.
All right. Yeah, I think, I've always thought that was interesting that Dr. X, he went as Dr. X and he also went as the Destroyer or the Intelligent Super Destroyer. What was it? The Intelligent? He had like a million nicknames for himself.
I just call him the Destroyer.
Yeah, and so did that. But, he did that, and Don Jardine did it as the Spoiler and the Super Destroyer. And I kind of never understood it because, like, if you're Don Jardine as the Spoiler, you want to build up your reputation, under one name as opposed to under two names. So I kind of don't get that. But right.
It also gave him an opportunity to unmask if he had to in one of the places. But Lou was correcting me. It is the Intelligent Sensational Destroyer. A quick thing about Ray, since I'm looking at him, because I've been on a Ray Stevens kick lately.
Okay.
I have just been our buddy Kevin Orcutt has been on his nice YouTube station has been putting up some nice San Francisco stuff from the 70s. One of the holy grails for me, I know one of the matches he had there was Patterson and Ray Stevens from the early 70s. One of the holy grails for me is those early Stevens matches, maybe Gomez back in I know there's a little bit like this is the Paul Jones match, but I'm just dying to see him from like 62 because just seeing how good of a bumper he was and the stuff he was doing when he had with one bad leg. I mean, I can only imagine, when he was completely healthy, what he was like. And if you look at the guys who saw him back then, it's almost universal. Bruno Sammartino complimented the guy.
Oh, yeah.
He was around compliments like manhole covers. Buddy Rogers has gushed about the guy, saying how great he is. Everybody who's seen him, and even the harshest critics, has said how amazing this guy is. And that just leads me to believe he has got to be like the world-class, championship bumper of all time.
I mean, he was a bumping machine. Even he did really good bumps, even though he was past his prime. Like when he was in the WWF in like 82 and 83 when he was feuding with Snuka. I mean, he saved it, but he could do some impressive stuff. And I think he was in his mid 40s at that point.
Yeah, and if you I'm just dying to get any of it because I know like Kevin's had stuff from the early 70s, so we're moving back. I didn't even know we had that. I only thought we had the stuff from the late 70s, but now we're moving back to the early 70s, so maybe someone's out there. But talking about the Holy Grails that are out there, that would be a huge one for me. Him and Gomez, or him and maybe Cowboy Ellis, or one of those guys back like 62 or 63. Or God forbid something from the old Tennessee territory. Because they have that one match that I showed you before that's it's in Ohio. That's Buddy Rogers against Ray Stevens, a young Ray Stevens, who Ray had to be like 19 at the time. Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that some of the stuff that is out there, mostly Buffalo, Hollywood, and Chicago is out there. I mean, yeah, we're always hoping that someone, goes through their grandfather's attic and, oh my God, we have these reels that can be converted. But, whenever something like we were just talking about what happened earlier, like the WWF releases the 1986 bashes, 2 of them, or when they finally come up with something I had no idea existed, which was the Tommy Rich versus Buzz Sawyer match. I mean, to me, it's like I consider that a gift. Like, I don't expect more, and that way, I guess when I get more, it's a pleasant surprise, if that makes any sense.
No, I guess, but the way this is going, I'm telling you, I still think that Bruno Buddy match is out there. I think they may have taped it just to cover themselves in case Buddy got a little talkative afterwards.
Well, I'm not waiting for that match to show up because it never has. But I mean,
what do you got?
One thing I've noticed, I'm just like going through these cards for the first time, and I've never been much of a wrestling card guy. But one thing that Topps, who has produced cards, they started producing baseball cards, I think back in the 50s, if not earlier. They used some of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Not fonts, but the design from like 1970s baseball cards, back when I used to get them. Like I'm looking at a Baron Corbin card, which is the exact design of their 1977 Topps baseball set. It's almost like I'm waiting to see Ferguson Jenkins. I'm looking at Baron Corbin. But I'll tell you what, they have this spectacular shot of Randy Savage. This had to be from 85 or 86 because he's not holding the WWF or Intercontinental Championship. Yet it looks like one of his earlier appearances, and it says Macho Man Randy Savage, WWF legend. Let me see the back of this. The Macho Man was, as he described himself, the cream of the crop of the WWE. I'd describe him that way too. A second-generation superstar, Randy Savage captured the WWF Championship twice in his career, with both clinching victories coming at WrestleMania. Savage was also the Intercontinental Champion and wore the King of the Ring crown after defeating Hacksaw Jim Duggan for the headwear. Savage's WWE career also included key victories over some of the best superstars in WWE. I need to know when this card was produced. It doesn't really say. It looks like 1996. So this is back when they were still 1980 something. It's really small, but I can tell this is before they even acknowledged WCW, because obviously he went on to be champion there. Sean, where would you rank, if you had to rank the greatest wrestlers of the 1980s, where would Randy Savage rank?
And after this, let me answer this, but after this, I think we should go over what's actually in our package, like, just kind of an overview of what we're looking at. But
yeah, sure.
Randy, Rick, again, Rick even have to watch a Rick and Morton again. I said to you that after you watch the Cumberland Farms commercials and all the little tweet videos, and you almost forget. And then you see Rick in 1986, the absolute height of his powers. I know he was great in 89 too, but he had more help in 89. I mean, 86 he had help too, but it didn't seem like he needed it. You could put him in there with anybody, and he was making everybody look great. And the match with Morton was fantastic. The match with Dusty was the match with Dusty. We've all seen that a million times. That was Dusty won the belt. But Rick's won. I would say Randy, and Brandon Rice is creating a voodoo doll for me right now. I would have him top 5.
I would have him top 5 as well. I would say the only guys in the entire decade that Randy Savage would be behind would be Flair, Hogan, Piper, and that's it. He has an argument for number 4.
Yeah, I when I say top 5, I mean 5, pretty much. Because I would, Flair, Piper, Hogan, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And you can also
not
say,
at all.
Nothing. He was pretty much good throughout the decade. And the problem is, the best stuff we have of him probably is not on video because his knees were already crap by the time he went national.
Yeah, I mean, I have been told by Brandon Hefner, who was a guest on this show, that he was lucky enough to grow up in Southern Illinois, and he saw some ICW shows, and he was like, yeah, Savage was even better before he got national exposure. Very quickly, before I go over your point about, what is in this box, we were talking about watching the Dusty Rhodes versus Ric Flair title change in 1986. I mean, here it is. It's the middle of July. It's North Carolina. You are in an indoor stadium where there is no air conditioning, and those television lights, which bring so much heat, are going. It must have been an oven in that ring.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I'm not going to go through the tangent that Rhodes shouldn't have exactly won the belt there. Oh, and how about Flair's entrance into in Charlotte?
Yes. It was an outdoor stadium, and he came in a helicopter, and it was just vintage Ric Flair. He was at his best. He looked his best. They gave him the ring introduction that he deserved. I mean, Rick needed to be turned babyface long before he was, and it's questionable whether or not they should have ever turned him with the Andersons in 1985. But okay, yeah, what is in this box? I had a package of, I believe, 50 random trading cards, which are kind of cool. Like I said, they're borrowing from the Topps 1970s baseball cards that I grew up on. Here's one using the 1972 design. So I've got a package of 50 random cards, many of which are really cool. I haven't opened this yet, so I'm not sure what it is. I have a WWE Heritage package, WWE Champions package, the WCW packages that they put out in 1994. I have not opened these yet, and a Raw package, which has Ronda Rousey, Seth Rollins, and what's that guy's name? I can't stand him. I'm not even going to mention his name because I don't like him. But he's the really muscular guy who wears the headband. I think he's terrible. Danny Lashley. Oh, yeah. I like the modern product. I do, even though I don't watch Raw and SmackDown anymore, just because I'd rather do something else with that 5 hours a week or whatever it is. I always watch the pay-per-view. I'm going to watch the pay-per-view this coming Sunday, and I generally enjoy them. I think the last few have been good, even though we're recording this on Tuesday, July the 9th, and I hear that last night's Raw was just epically bad. I should probably watch it just to find out what I'm missing. So I'll tell you what, let me open up this package. I've got a little card of King Kong Bundy on the front here. It looks like more random cards, and like I said, I never got into wrestling cards, but I think these are kind of cool. Let me see. I don't think this is a WWF card of King Kong Bundy. Wrestling Stars 96 King Kong Bundy, and it doesn't have anything else. I think this is pre-WWF.
Yes, I have an LG Gante card. Bingo.
Okay, I have something to say about El Gigante. Did you know his feud with Ric Flair in early 1991 drew way better than anyone had any right to expect?
That couldn't be because of the awesomeness of Ric Flair, could it?
No, It's because WCW, finally were putting Ric Flair out there against someone other than Lex Luger or Sting. That's how badly they overdid those two feuds. And I'm not saying they were bad feuds, but when you've got nothing between the Terry Funk feud and the El Gigante feud, so we're looking at a solid 2 years here, it was all Luger and Sting. And obviously people got tired of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the top of their roster got thin. I mean, because they were never developing new guys.
No, it was like that was Dusty's greatest strength when he first started off in 84, 85, and it became his greatest weakness as time went on. He just wanted to stick to the guys that he was used to. But I mean, getting a little bit off topic here, I mean, the Boston Celtics just signed this undrafted free agent out of the University of Central Florida, Tackle Falls, who is 7'7". Next, I'll tell you what. Go measure out something that's 7'7" and imagine a person being that big. That's ridiculous. But and you're like, everyone's saying, "Oh wow, 7'7". He's got to be able to do something out there." Gigante was a legit 7'6" 30 years ago, and he couldn't do a damn thing on the basketball court. So I'm not getting too, as a Celtics fan, I'm not getting too excited about this guy.
We went off on a tangent, but a quick correction back from before. Bobby Lashley, I believe, was the guy you were referring to. I couldn't think of the name either. I'm thinking Danny. I knew. I was like, Danny's not right, but
Danny
I can't
Lashley,
think of the right name.
I think it's a wrestling fan. So
That's
you're right. It's Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, that's what you were thinking of. Okay, fair enough. Did you know that El Gigante had a shoe size of 21?
I did not know that, although that can't surprise me because, everything's proportionate, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So you pulled out the El Gigante card. Let me see what I've got here. Oh, yeah, boy.
Sorry, I got a little excited about that.
I've got something from TNA. This is, oh, my God. It's something called, it is not maybe a set of cards, but apparently they put out some cards. It's called Mike's Magical Moments, and it's a Mike Tenay themed TNA thing. And I've got Kurt Angle sitting in the middle of the ring wearing a suit, crying, while Samoa Joe is either yelling at him or consoling him. I don't know because I didn't pay attention to TNA back then. Let's find out what this is all about. Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe feud. When in doubt, the Joe-Kurt rivalry has been the most physical feud in the history of TNA. Okay, well, Mike Tenay says so. Mike Tenay's a really good guy, by the way. He is.
I'm glad you got that in there. You wouldn't want to offend anybody.
No, he is a good guy. I wish that they had cards. Johnny Mac's Magical Moments. I'd have all of them. All right, pick a card, sir. Pick a topic on this.
All right, it's my turn.
Your turn, sir.
I'm so like knee deep in cards right now. Okay, so I already told you about Ray, and so I also got 2 packages of random cards. And I do see I see what you're saying about the style. I have one card here of Big Boss Man that has like a very 86 top style that I remember from my youth. That that wooden border. You know what I'm talking about? The wooden border thing they used to do?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So we got a little Magnum. This is a good blend because even if if you like us and like the old school stuff, you got plenty of old school guys here. I got a Dutch Mantel WCW card.
Oh, perfect guy to get a Dutch Mantel card is you.
Yeah, Oil Trough, Texas. Dirty Dance. Dirty Dutch is a dastardly dude. He's famous for breaking rules and breaking faces. There you go. So we get the Freebirds, Eddie Guerrero, Jerry Briscoe. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of everything. I mean, you have stuff from everywhere from Rays from like the early 80s up until I have a pack of the Raw cards, like you said, with Ronda Rousey, WWF Champion cards, the WWE Heritage trading cards from 2016, which I was just going through. I even have a Magnum card here.
Magnum TA.
Who is in the midst of his best of 7 series when we were watching the show the other day, the Great American Bash tour.
Oh, I just opened up my WCW pack, and I too have a Dutch Mantel card. And let me see, it says, not only does Dutch Mantel know some sharp wrestling moves, but he also has a sharp tongue. Ask him about the Steiner brothers, and he'll respond, I bet if you asked them when the World War of 1812 was, they couldn't tell you. A little bit of a zinger on Dutch's part. Here's a Dutch story. Forgive me if I've told the story on the air before, but Dutch wrestled in Lowell, Massachusetts in 1991. This guy, Gordon Scozzari, tried to form a national promotion, and he did his taping at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, and it was such a disaster. They were like soliciting people out on the street, hey, can you come in and watch wrestling? So they would have an audience. This is how bad it was. The wrestling was bad. Everything was completely disorganized is not even the word. But after the show, I go up to my friend Chris Cruz, who I haven't seen in a while, but I hope he's doing well. And I'm like, Chris, could you introduce me to Dutch Mantel? And he's like, sure. He just walks up. Hey, John McAdams, Dutch Mantel. How you guys doing? And I start talking. And I'm like, God damn it. I didn't say it out loud. I'm like, Cruz, you're supposed to let this guy know that I'm okay. And he didn't do it. I guess he just didn't know. But I'm like talking to Dutch. I'm like, Dutch, I'm such a fan. I've seen your Memphis stuff. Back when you asked Jim Cornette if he likes to get up early and watch cartoons. No, well, he can't be my manager. And he's like, what did you think of Texas Dirt? And that was like the year before. And I was like, I haven't seen it yet. So the whole thing was kind of an embarrassment.
You could have asked him about when he was part of the Bass Brothers. He was Dutch Bass.
That's right. Ron Bass was his partner, right?
Yeah, it was Ron, Dutch, and Don.
Yeah, I was just so happy to meet him. I always thought that Dutch Mantel could have gotten not a big push in WCW, but a middle of the card push, because he could talk and he had so much charisma if you just go out there and let him be Dutch Mantel. I mean, remember when he turned babyface in Memphis and he's sitting there playing the guitar, shooting to the breeze with, I think it was Jerry Jarrett, and right before Lawler came back when they were doing that thing with Buddy Landell and Bill Dunn.
It was Marlon.
Oh, it was Marlon. Okay.
Marlon, yep.
And Dutch is saying that, he likes to go to bars where there's smoky bars and there's low ceilings, and Buddy Landell likes to go to bars where they have high ceilings and people sit around, play Parcheesi, and talk about the Zodiac. You can't write stuff like that.
No, a quick setup on that. What happened there was, this is 86. I loved it. You're the one who put me on to this stretch, too, because I didn't like to go past 85 in Memphis, and you're like, check 86, trust me. And I went crazy. I watched about 10 episodes that night. And what happened there was that it was the Bill and Buddy show era, and Dutch was part of that too. But when Dutch wasn't around, Bill and Buddy were just kind of, pissing on Dutch, saying, he's just this tobacco chewing hillbilly, this.
Oh, yeah.
When finally Dutch heard about it, and that's what led to the breakup, and that's what led to what you're talking about, where he was strumming the car and just kind of doing this meditation almost. Oh, he's fantastic. He's the total package, and he comes across as a legit tough guy.
Yes, he does.
He does not. I mean, sometimes you'll see. I made this point with the Rock and Roll Express when we were watching the show, the Great American Bash shows. The issue, and I think the match was the Andersons against the Rock and Roll Express, and I made the point that if you knew nothing and you just saw these 4 guys in the middle of the ring, what do you think's going to happen? It looks like the Rock and Roll Express are about to get a beating just by the look of the guys. I mean, just you know nothing about the background or anything else. You're just looking at the 4 of those guys, and that's the same with if you look at Dutch, you're like, wow, that's a legit tough guy.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is too, and I wanted to point this out. I think I failed to point this out while we were watching that show. is that, you know what, the fans never had a problem with guys like Ricky Morton or Chavo Guerrero against, they did both Guerrero and Morton in Mid-South against Dr. Death Steve Williams, who's huge, and Hercules Hernandez, who looked like he was about to explode when he was in Mid-South, and the fans just bought it. So I just never understood that, like, they don't have size, so the fans don't buy them. Obviously, they bought the Rock and Roll Express and Crockett.
Oh yeah, no, because they promoted it correctly. All I'm saying is take yourself out of like all that, those guys coming in, the videos and all the other stuff where they intro them properly. So yeah, of course, once they do that, then you're fine. But I'm saying if you knew nothing about that, you know nothing about the four people in the ring, you just see these four guys. Right. You were never in danger with someone like Dutch. Dutch always had like a legitimacy to all of his matches.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And WCW completely misused him. I think that WWF kind of misused him when he was managing Jack Swagger back, I want to say like 7 or 8 years ago. There's another guy they blew it with. How is a guy going to get over with a name like Jack Swagger? The guy was a legitimate All-American wrestling and offensive guard at Oklahoma. So he's got athletic ability. He's a big guy. He's got a good look, and they totally just monkey wrench it with that name.
Yeah, here's one. What do you think about Dutch, say around 81 or like say 81 against Backlund? I know, but I mean, what do you think? You think that would work?
You know what? Because it's Dutch, I think it could have worked as a one and done because that's how talented Dutch Mantel was. I think even though he was so small by WWF standards, he was so good at what he did that I think as a one and done, he could have talked people into the building.
Like a Buddy Rose thing?
Buddy. I mean, Buddy was bigger than Dutch. They did the one and dones. Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there was that big of a difference. How big is Dutch? About 220?
I don't know. I would say he's no more than 5'8", 5'9". That's the problem.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he was. I didn't know. Okay, I didn't know he was my height then. Unfortunately.
I mean, I think Memphis throws it off a little bit because Lawler's not a big guy. Dundee is a small guy. Yeah. But I would say Dutch is no more than 5'9".
Another pack. Okay, so I got a pack of 91. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. So 2 other cards I pulled out that I was looking at here. One is Outback Jack.
Oh man,
we have Outback Jack pinning a cow.
He's pinning his ears. Cow.
Yep, the cow is on his side. His head's back. He's got like it might be a bull, I guess. I don't know. I don't see any horns though, but he's got something pinned. And on the back, we have a quote from Outback Jack: "Wild buffaloes are tough blokes. I figure that if I can pin one of them, well, mate, I can pin a lot of blokes in the WWF." So I guess he's probably pinning a wild buffalo in the front. Who was Outback Jack? I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember his name. But I'll tell you what, was there a guy that the WWF gave so much TV time that got over I mean, they did those vignettes, they pushed him big, and he did not get over it all. And he was gone pretty quickly.
This was right around the time of Crocodile Dundee, wasn't it?
That was totally what that was all about. McMahon saw Crocodile Dundee, and he wanted that character.
If they promoted Kern as Skinner, half as much as they promoted this guy, they gave this guy a huge plug coming in. Yeah, he had little vignettes and wrestling alligators and everything.
All right. I just opened up a pack. I haven't even looked at the cards yet, but it says WWE Heritage 2016 trading cards, and on it there's a picture of The Rock, so 90s, John Cena, so the 2000s, and Andre the Giant 80s. So let's take a look at what's in here. Okay, I'm going to express a controversial opinion. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
It wasn't Miss Elizabeth who was the prettiest woman in wrestling history. It wasn't Missy Hyatt. It wasn't anyone else but Eve Torres, who was the first card I'm looking at right now. She was an absolute smoke show. You know who she is.
That's a little after my time. I'm looking at half the but okay. So I did find I found the 91 set.
Okay.
So let's see who we have here. These are cool. I'm trying to think what the era. It's again, we'll put pictures of some of these up so you can take a look. But they have a red and yellow background. These are actually from the 91 from that year, and they are WCW cards. And we have Terry Taylor, Sting, Jim Ross, Lex Luger, the bad version of the Fabulous Freebirds. Dutch again. I got two Dutches. Tommy Rich, Doom, Sid Vicious, Ricky Morton, the Steiner brothers with a very, very, very young Scotty, and Terry again.
All right. I would like to share my favorite Sid Vicious story with everybody. Oh, actually, it might not even be my favorite, but it's one of my favorites.
Does it have to do with
what's that?
Does it have to do with a squeegee?
No, it does not.
Okay, continue.
All right. Hey, you see, so we know we've got good Sid stories. If the squeegee isn't my number one, they brought him back. No, wait a minute. This is after he got knocked out with the punctured lung when he was one of the skyscrapers, and they just put him in the Horsemen. This is like May, June, July 1990, and he suffered a setback with the punctured lung, so he was out again because he was a member of the Four Horsemen. Now we all know. Even I don't like the 1990 Four Horsemen. I always thought we were kind of in reruns with that, but at the same time, it's still a very prestigious spot to be in that Four Horsemen group that has that name brand with Barry Windham, Arn Anderson, and Ric freaking Flair. Okay, so Sid suffers a setback. And they say to him, okay, we know you can't wrestle. Can you please go on the road and just be in the Horseman's corner? And Sid's like, no, I can't even do that. And then come to find out that he is playing softball in West Memphis, Arkansas, despite that injury. So he can play softball, but he can't just sit in the corner of the Horseman.
Well, our man's like softball anonymous. The guy's a softball junkie. What do you want from him? Oh, wait. We got Honky Tonk Man. We got
one more thing on Sid.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Supposedly, he would walk in to a league game in a league where he was not on anyone's team and they didn't have a DH, and he would just walk up and he'd be like, I'm going to be the DH for that team tonight. And who's going to say no to that guy?
Exactly.
All right, Honky Tonk Man.
I know. I say my ADHD is going crazy. I just have a bunch of old pictures in front of me of all these old cool cards. I'm just kind of going through them all. Honky Tonk Man. This is really cool. It's a classic WWF card. Honky Tonk Man with the old logo with the guitar in the middle of it and little notes on the side. He's about to do the shake, rattle, and roll. They have him listed as 248. Seems generous. Memphis, Tennessee. Favorite wrestling move: shake, rattle, and roll, neck breaker. Special feats and talents: adding opponents to Honky Tonk Man's greatest hit list. And unusual characteristics: claims to sing, dance, play the guitar, and wrestle better than anyone.
Okay. I'll tell you what, if anyone thinks that there was not a complete steroid epidemic in the wrestling business in the 80s, let's say the late 80s, I mean, I personally know the guy who, at least he says, that when Honky Tonk Man quit the WWF, he sold his remaining steroid stash to this gentleman. So if Honky Tonk Man was using, I mean, pretty much the only guys who weren't using were like Dusty and the One Man Gang.
Speaking of steroids, I found a Tatanka card.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Share some thoughts on Tatanka, and then I have something to say about Tatanka.
First of all, they have him listed at 285. Good Lord!
What planet did they weigh him on?
Oh, my God. Native American superstar Tatanka had one of the best starts to a WWE career. I forgot about this. As he went undefeated for 18 months. An incredible streak with wins against Shawn Michaels, Rick Martel, matches you will never see again, And Tatanka will later turn back. Yeah, if you want to know what's not going to be on WWE Network, that would be Tatanka going over Shawn Michaels. Would later turn his back on the fan base he'd worked so hard to grow in the WWE universe, selling out to the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase and joining the $1 Million Corporation.
He worked so hard to grow that. So we were talking about Outback Jack. This is the 90s version of Outback Jack. Probably with, I was going to say with fewer vignettes, but maybe a far bigger push. Once again, supposedly Vince McMahon went to go see Dances with Wolves and was determined. I'm not kidding. This is the story I heard back in the 90s, and he came out determined to push a Native American wrestler in a non-Chief Jay Strongbow / Wahoo McDaniel manner. And, I mean, think about it. He pushed the hell out of Tatanka, obviously, when the WWF was at its all-time lowest. But, I mean, they were determined to put that guy over, and it just didn't happen.
What other movies are there that Vince has based wrestlers on?
Oh, man. Rambo with Corporal Kirshner.
Oh, that's
the Rambo series, the First Blood series.
Oh, I just thought that was going to be like a Slaughter knockoff kind of thing. Just like a Don Cornudle, Jim Nelson kind of deal.
No, it was I mean, it might not have been the Rambo movies, although the First Blood movies was the biggest one. I mean, in 85, 86, you could not go to the movie theater without having at least the choice to go see a Vietnam movie. I mean, that was just the era we were living in, and thus, he created that character. But yeah, a lot of people think that it was Sergeant Slaughter's replacement or something like that. Maybe it kind of was, but it was more about like this is what all the movies were about back then.
And okay, I have a Kofi Kingston card here that just kind of okay. I have one other thing I got was this little manila envelope with these three cards inside, and I guess there's like little additions to them. It's a Raw card, a WWE Heritage card, and just a WWE card. And in the one's Kofi Kingston and The Miz, and both of these they have authentic shirt relics in the card.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this, and yeah, wow. Okay, Kofi Kingston is one of my favorite wrestlers that is currently wrestling. Did you know he grew up in Cambridge?
I did not.
Yeah, that's my understanding of it, at least. And he played. Did he play football or basketball at BC? I think he played basketball. And the guy is an amazing athlete. With a running start, he can clear the top rope. He can jump straight over it onto a guy outside the ring. He's just an incredible wrestler. He's one of the – I think he's the SmackDown champion. He got completely over on his own with like no help from the company. So, yeah, he's a big favorite of mine.
One other thing. One other card on these, it has it's Booker T against Christian, and I guess they have a piece of the mat.
Okay,
it's an event used mat. It says that's pretty cool.
All right, here's what I got. I have the Big Show with an authentic shirt relic. I've got Rusev with an authentic hat relic, and Edge with a event used ring mat. That's pretty cool. I got to see Edge when he first started with the WWF. I can't remember what town it was in New Hampshire. It was some small town upstate. I got to see Kurt Angle when he was first starting. But more importantly, I see this woman and she looks familiar. And there was a reason I was going to this show, okay? Not to see the wrestling, but I wanted to meet someone, and I came armed with a videotape and a magazine. And I just walked up to this woman. I'm like, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Are you Marti Funk?" And she like looked at me so surprised, and she's like, "Yeah." And I introduced myself. I'm like, I just wanted to say hi. I am a huge fan of your husband. And I said, and this tape is for him. It's got like a bunch of his stuff on it. Maybe he has some of it. Maybe he doesn't. And I was like, is there any way I could meet Dory Funk Jr.? And I got to meet him. And of course, Dory was great, a complete gentleman, very talkative. And his wife, Marti, who I know, a lot of people don't like Marti. Fine. I like her. I had a great experience with her. She she was like, she was so touched by that someone would come out and do that for her husband. And she's like, no one remembers Dory anymore. No one remembers Terry. No one remembers Jack Briscoe. And I looked at her and I kind of laughed. This was, I want to say late 99, maybe mid 99. And I'm like, Marty, people don't remember Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart anymore. It's just a completely different audience now. But yeah, like I said, she was really cool to me. I can't speak for anybody else, but
I was going to say, not all experiences are like that. So from what I've heard, maybe it's because maybe I'm looking at the time frame because you talked to her earlier. Maybe something happened later on. Yeah.
Nah, I mean, I think she probably just is who she is. I mean, maybe a little bit of a nut, whatever, but she was great to me, and I'm glad I got to. I brought a magazine, an Inside Wrestling from when Dory was a champion, and I asked him, could you please sign it? I promise I'm not going to sell this on eBay, and he signed it, and I have it around somewhere.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Quick aside, when you mentioned Kofi's from the Boston area, where would you put him on?
Up in Cambridge. I think he's originally from Ghana, but he grew up in Cambridge.
Fair enough. Then we're claiming him. Where would you put him on the list of all-time greats who grew up in Boston? Wrestlers. Cena. You have Kevin Sullivan.
I mean, John Cena obviously is the top guy. He's the biggest star. He grew up somewhere on the North Shore. What's the name of the place? West Newbury.
Yeah.
And yeah, Sullivan had a great career, and I'm a big fan of his. But I don't think you can put him up there with Kingston and Cena. Who else am I forgetting that grew up around here? Can we throw Triple H in there?
Well, he's from Connecticut, but.
He's from Nashua, New Hampshire, dude.
Oh, is he?
My mom used to work with his mom.
Yeah, okay. I keep forgetting. Keep trying to loop Nashua into the greater Boston loop. Sure, why not? For Triple H, we'll take it.
It's part of the TV market. We're going with it.
They make
not from Connecticut.
They make me pay money to go there. I'm referring to the unfortunate toll that's on the road at the border.
I have never met Triple H. My mom has met him. My brother has met him. Many of my friends have met him, but I have never met him. We went to the same high school and everything. I'm John McAdam. He's Triple H. We've never met each other.
How is this possible?
That's what I'm saying.
Have you ever asked your mom or someone can you set something up?
Well, she doesn't know him that well. She's met him. She's, she was friendly with his mom, but, not anymore. That was a long time ago. But when he first started out, when he first started in the WWF, which I think was 94 or 95, he visited the office that they worked in. And apparently, no one knew who he was, except he was this, really muscular, good looking guy. So everyone's day was made.
Well, I just pulled up a list of wrestlers from Massachusetts. I was hoping to see something awesome. I was disappointed. So it looks like we have a bunch of guys I've never heard of. Cena, Dangerous Danny Davis.
He's from Dover, New Hampshire, so we're really spreading out the Boston area.
Well, yeah. Cronus.
Saturn.
Yep. And Tony Rumble.
I knew Tony.
Of course you did. Did you have a book, Tony?
No, I did not.
Anyway, okay, I'm rambling enough.
Tony and I were a little bit too much alike.
Oh. It just who was okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to go off on another tangent. We have 3 minutes to go, so I know we'll be here for another 20 minutes. I'll get cut off like I did last time.
Let me say something really quick. I got an NXT card with American Alpha, which was Jason Jordan and Chad Gable. And my Jason Jordan was really good. He was in the middle of a big push where he was Kurt Angle's son when Kurt was the WWF GM or whatever it was. And he, like I said, he was really good, really promising. And I have read that his career is over due to a neck injury, and that really sucks. He was good. Yeah, no, he was definitely good, but I know it's a physical business.
It's it's part of the risk of being being involved, and it's what it's what happens.
Yeah, and they're a lot more careful than they used to be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even on the Great American Bash shows, you saw that was all concrete outside the ring.
Oh, that's right. And sometimes there was very little protection, very little buffer between the wrestlers and the audience. I mean, there were times where it seemed very dangerous.
No, it was, but I mean, but as Jim Cornette has wonderfully said in the past, that the whole job used to be, and I actually explained this to my girlfriend as she sat down to watch a little bit of it, was that the idea before was to look like it hurt, and it really doesn't. Now it doesn't look like, it's not supposed to not look like it hurts, but it does. So
yeah, I mean, that's my one complaint about watching the WWE pay-per-views. They're on every 4 or 5 weeks, and there's always some ridiculous stunt that they pull that they totally don't even need to try. The wrestling war is over. You've won. You don't need The Undertaker almost killing Cactus Jack or Mick Foley through the cage. You won the war almost 20 years ago, and you don't need to put these guys and sometimes girls in danger with these spots. Just tell them not to do them. I mean, the day is going to come when someone lands on their head, lands wrong, and we've got another Droz. What was the guy's name that really got hurt? Droz?
Yeah, Darren
Drozdov.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Maryland football player. Anyway, it has been a great hour. I want to thank our friends at Hot Box Cards, and that is, once again, www.hotboxcards.net. And once again, if you use the code WICKEDGOOD, you're going to get extra swag from these guys, and we want to thank them not only for the cards, which are really cool, but they gave us something to talk about this week. So I want to thank Sean Goodwin for everything he does for Stick to Wrestling. I want to thank our producer, Lou Kipilman. He does an absolutely awesome job every week. And this has been a presentation of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. We'll see you next week.